All right, so I just calculated my personal fire number, and I am $2,486,000 away from retiring, which means I have a long road ahead of me, which means I have a lot of work to do, which means I'm going to be working for a while in my near future. But with that being said, today I want to talk to you about how to calculate your personal fire number and a couple things to take into consideration when deciding and picking your fire number, determining what type of pool rate you want to use, determining where you are and what age you want to retire. That is going to dictate how much money you're going to need to put into this investment account, your 401k, your IRA, in order to hit that goal amount. And then we're going to be discussing how much money do we want to live off of on an annual basis. Some type of concepts in order to determine what is going to be the right fit for us. So with that being said, if you could leave out in the comments what your fire number is and tell me what are you working towards? Because having a goal and knowing what you're working towards is truly going to help you in achieving the goals that you want to achieve. And so every single month I talk about one of four things. Our crypto portfolio, our custodial account with our kids, retirement account, or our taxable brokerage account. And so if any of that type of accounts or concepts, financial education is interesting, hit that bell notification, and I look forward to seeing you at a future video. But let's talk about what your fire number is. And again, leave that in the comment section. You can see my fire number is $2.5 million before I can retire. And I am $2,486,000 away, which means I only have $14,000 right now in retirement. The first question you need to ask yourself is, what is going to be your annual salary amount that you would like to live off of between you and your spouse, you and significant other, or you yourself in general? There is one of four ways that you can really go about this. You could pick your current salary. You could say, hey, my current salary is fine, but maybe if I had another $10,000 to go on a vacation every year, that would be perfect. You can look at it on a monthly basis. Do I want $5,000 a month, $10,000 a month, $7,500, $12,000, whatever that number is? Look at it in that form versus the $100,000 on an annual basis. Again, or you can even just pick a number out of thin air. It doesn't really matter, but you need a number to work off of so that then we can start the calculations to determine how much money we need to have in our portfolio before we can retire. Even if you go the monthly route, saying I need $5,000 a year, $10,000 a year, I need you to multiply that out for 12 years, because this calculation only works if you have it on an annual number. So you can still look at it again as $5,000 a month, but for the calculations and everything, I need you to understand that that is $60,000 a year, which is going to, again, allow us to do the calculations. So once you have your annual amount, and to give you an idea, the annual number that we use for our fire number is $100,000 a year. And so the next thing that you have to determine and figure out is what is going to be the age that you would like to retire at. And hopefully you are watching this video at a younger age, because if so, the younger you are, the more runway you have, therefore you can let compound interest really do the heavy lifting. For instance, if you're 35 years old and you want to retire at 40 and you need $2.5 million, you don't have much runway to allow compound interest to really do a lot of help. So that means you're going to have to put a lot more money away on an annual basis to hit your goal. However, if you're 20 years old and you don't want to retire till 45 years old, you can get away with doing $500, $600 a month. Let a compound interest do a lot of that heavy lifting to get you to that $2.5 million goal. So the concept and what I really want to show you today, especially once we get in this investment calculator, is that the more runway you have, the earlier you start, the more opportunity you have to not stress about having to put large amounts of money in, as well as you can take a much more easier approach in moving forward in attacking and receiving this goal. So again, have an idea as to what age you would like to retire. Minus that off the age that you currently are, and that is going to be the number, and I'll show you that's going to make a little bit more sense once we get into the investment calculator as to the number we're going to put into our calculator to help us start figuring out how much money we need to put away on a monthly basis. The third and probably the most crucial is going to be the pool rate. The pool rate in simplistic terms is basically how much money you want to pull off on that portfolio on a given basis. So again, if your portfolio is $1 million a year and you say, hey, my pool rate is 4%, on $1 million portfolio, that basically means I'm going to pull out $40,000 every single year. Now, the concept or the key is to have a pool rate that is under what your portfolio generates on an annual basis over the long term. So again, 4% pool rate, but if your portfolio generates 10, 12%, 8% every single year, that means that you are never pulling off more interest than your portfolio is generating. Therefore, your portfolio is never going to go to zero. However, if you are pulling off 20% a year and your portfolio is only generating 10%, that means that every single year that portfolio is going negative slightly, and over time that portfolio is not going to be able to sustain that type of pull rate that you have for your portfolio. And so the smaller the pull rate, the larger the portfolio needs to be. Or the bigger the pull rate, then the smaller the portfolio needs to be. That was an inverse statement made to you. And so let me actually just pull it. This equation, let me give you a calculator very quick, and I can just show you exactly what I mean. The equation is the income amount divided by the percentage. Divided by the percentage rate. So again, if I want $100,000 a year, I divide by 4%, and that's going to give me a portfolio rate, a portfolio value of $2.5 million. Or I can do this the other way, or use a larger pull rate. Say I still wanted that $100,000, but say I have an 8% pull rate. As you can see now, that portfolio went in half for $1.25 million. But that means that if my portfolio does not generate at a minimum 8% every single year, then my portfolio is going to be going negative, and that $1.25 million is slowly going to be going down, and that is what I am trying to avoid. I'm trying to use a pool rate that my portfolio can always basically perform and produce, so that once that portfolio gets to that size, I never have to worry about it going negative for the rest of my life. Because on average, with the ETFs that we have invested in, our portfolio does somewhere around 8 to 12% every single year over the long term. Now, that does not mean that on a given year, one year it might go 4% negative, 2% negative, or even go even. But on the long term, our portfolio has generated 8 to 12% every single year for the last 20, 30 years. And that's when you take in all the average returns and average amount into 1%. That's where I get that 8 to 12%. But with that being said, let's go to this investment calculator and let's start playing with it so I can show you exactly what I mean regarding this. Okay. So, remember I asked how much money do we want? So, again, we're going to use myself, and then I'm going to play with this a little bit to show you kind of how you can use this in order to determine where you want to go. We started with $0, so we had no money in retirement, my wife and I. And so we put here for the zero amount. We want to retire basically at 60 years old on the nose. And we are 30 years old right now, which means we have 30 years to accomplish this goal. The return on the rate of return that our portfolio is basically seeing at a given basis right now is 12%. Okay, and then it compounds annually, and then we put in $500 a month. And so, as you can see right here, at $500 a month over 30 years at 12%, this portfolio is only going to generate $1.5 million. So that is clearly less money than what we need at the $2.5 million. We're still $2.5 million or $1 million short of the $2.5 million that we would like to have. And so, as you can see here, let's play here. Let's see how much money we would need. So if we did another 5 years, so basically with the route that we are going at $500 a month, we would need 35 years in order to reach that $2.5 million, which basically puts us at an age of 65 years old to have $2.7 million. Because I do believe 34 is too short. Yep, we're about $70,000 too short from retiring. So as you can see here, over 30 some odd years at 12%, $500 can get the job done. But say I'm at 40 years old, or say I'm at 50. Say I'm at 50 and all I have is 15 years to do this. I would need to put in, I'm just guessing right now, let's do $2,500 a month. No, I would need to put in a little bit more. Oops, 3,000. Nope, that's still not enough. 3,500. This is the power of starting early. Not even 5,000, 5,500? 5,500. So if I have, so from reducing the time in half, basically from 30 years, 35 years down to 15 years, I have to go from $500 a month up to $5,500 a month just to get the same type of return portfolio size. And so again, this is the power of starting off young. And I don't want to jump off topics with different videos, but this is also why I started my son's basic retirement / brokerage account, however you wanted to use it, an account for my son, where I'm doing $100 a month for him. And over 40 years, he will have $1 million just doing the $100 a month. And so it is, again, very important to start off early. If there's any concept that I want you to learn out of this, is not, picking your fire number, this or that. It is that if I begin starting investing today, that makes my journey a lot more easier in the future. But the concept that I want you to really do is, I'm going to put this investor calculator in the description below so that you can play with this on your own. But I want you to start playing with the number of years, play with the rate of return, how much money to put away in order to reach that retirement number. And so how you're going to do this is take your annual amount. So let's say you want $50,000 a year. Say you want a pool rate of 5%, so 0.05. That's going to be $1 million portfolio. Then you're going to come over here. Depending on where you are, you might already have a 401k started, an IRA started. Whatever that value is currently at, you're going to put that in as the starting amount. I would say use somewhere between 10 to 12%. If you're in a standard S&P 500 or a basic ETF or mutual fund, is most likely going to use 10 to 12%. But if you already have investment, you can actually look at your portfolio and see what it has done over the long term and use that rate of return to put in here. But for right now, for 12%, and then depending on what your age is and where you want to retire at, that is going to determine what time or how much length of time you have. Play with that, and then you can start seeing how much money you need to put away in order to reach that goal of your portfolio size. For that $1 million, if I have 20 years to go, then let's see if $1,000 will get me there. So I'm a little bit short. I need about $1,100. So if I have no money in a portfolio, I have 20 years before I want to retire, $1,100 is going to be able to do the job. If I have 40 years, say I'm starting at 20 years old and I want to retire at 60, this is going to be able to be brought down significantly. Look, $200, not even. Can you believe that? If you have 40 years, so if you start at 20 years old and do $125 a month, you could retire at 60 with $1.2 million. And this doesn't take into consideration you increasing it, you getting a better job over that 40 years and being able to put away more than $125 on a monthly basis. It is extraordinary what compounding can do for you over the long term. But that is that. Like I said, I'm going to leave this website in the description below so you can play with this and get an idea as to where you want to be and how much money you need to put away on a given basis. But let me just go back to giving you kind of a portfolio update and kind of where we're at. Oh, yeah, this is important, and this is what I want you to read. So once you get going, again, this is a lot. It's a lot of information. It's a lot of things to go back and forth. The concept is to just start getting money invested. You can start getting a little bit more into the weeds of things once you get going and once you get on that repetition. But putting money away on a monthly basis is the concept and the key that I want you to understand and start fighting and buying back your future. Once you do that, understand that you can always invest outside of a 401k or IRA. So you can use both of these accounts. You can use a 401k or IRA. And the reason I say that is because depending on where you are and the amount of money you need to put away in a given month, your IRA is going to tap out at $6,000 a year, or if you're over 50 years old, as of right now, you get an additional $1,000 a year. So say you need to put away $12,000 a year, $15,000 a year. An IRA is not going to be the vehicle that is going to allow you to do that. Now, it is a great vehicle because especially if you use a Roth IRA or a Roth 401k, any money you put in there and then that money grows, you can pull that money out tax-free at the time of retirement. So it is still a good vehicle, but depending on where you are starting at, you might need to put in more money than what is allowed on an annual basis. I believe a 401k is somewhere around $20,000 as of right now. Don't quote me exactly. Look that up. But you only have a max of $20,000 you can put away in the 401k and a max of $6,000 that you can put away in the IRA. And then in addition, excuse me, an additional $1,000, I believe, for both. I know for sure IRA because that's the vehicle that I use. But I also do believe it's an additional $1,000 or a little bit more that you can put away in a 401k if you're over that age of 50. So keep that in mind. That you can use just a standard investment account at wherever you bank at an investment bank to make up that difference that you need to do in order to get to your goal. This graph right here that is right under my video, right under my picture, my face, is what happens when you reinvest dividends over the long haul. And so this is the power of reinvesting dividends that I want to bring to your attention. And so when I was plugging in that number for me specifically, the $100,000 a year that I wanted, the $500 a month, over 30 years I got to $1.5 million, if you recall. That took into consideration no reinvestment of dividends along the way. And so I know, or I am very comfortable in feeling that my $2.5 million goal is going to happen somewhere between that 30 and 35 years. Of course, 30 years is going to be a little bit short. I think I'm going to take a little bit longer. But the 35 years, I know I'm not going to go to that way because I'm going to be reinvesting dividends along the way. And so that is going to help me get to that number, that $2.5 million, a lot sooner than that investment calculator gave me because it didn't take into consideration any reinvestment of dividends. And then the next thing that I want you to figure out is I'm a little bit nerdy, and so I have a spreadsheet. Let me just show you. It's already up. Here it is. This is my, let me highlight this so you can see. Where the cursor is highlighted, this is my retirement account. These are the two positions I'm pointing, like you can see. VTI and VEA are the two major positions in my retirement account. And these are the dividends I receive, quarter, yada, yada, yada. But what I want to bring to your attention and what I really want to show you is that you can begin to start understanding what your portfolio generates on a dividend basis, on an annual basis. And so what I mean by that is last year my portfolio generated 1.57% of a dividend. So whatever the value of my portfolio was, it was $10,000 at the end of 2021. I've received 1.5% in dividends, so it was $171. Not that big of a deal right now, understand. But now what I want you to start factoring in is when your portfolio gets to that $2 million, okay, and then you times it by 0.0157, if I was able to maintain that same annual dividends rate, that is $31,000 in dividends alone. That is no pulling any capital out of your portfolio. That is not selling any investments. That is strictly the dividends that it receives out of your account is $31,000. And so what that basically means now is I really only need my portfolio to generate $70,000 a year because dividends alone is going to give me $30,000 of that. But again, this gets a little bit more deeper, and this is not a concept I really want you to start thinking about until you get going on your actual investing for your retirement or whatever investment goals you have. Because this, again, is starting to look a little bit more into the weeds of things and getting a little bit more specific. But you do have options out there where your portfolio is going to be providing you additional income outside of the growth of the portfolio, the thing you can be able to use. And so as of April, as of this week, this Friday closing, this is where our portfolio, our retirement account sits at. I'm at $14,000. As I said earlier, I need to get to $2.5 million. Got a very long way to go. $2,486,000 to go before we do go for that. As you can see here, this is how much money I deposited for this particular month, how much gain percentage. What I always like to follow and like to track, again, I'm very into tracking kind of past performance and where I am and where I was. So quarter one of 2021, so a year ago basically, as of last month, the portfolio generated $22 in dividends. And this particular quarter, or last quarter, quarter one of 2022, it generated $34. So as you can see, I have bought more shares of the particular investments that I am in, and so that's why I got a larger dividend payout this time versus last time. And every single year I plan for that to increase and increase and increase because the portfolio is going to be holding on to more assets. The last goal was in November 28th of 2021. It reached $10,000, and the next goal that I'm going after is $25,000. And so, again, thank you very much for watching the video. Take a look at the playlist of all of the different retirement account videos or retirement topics that I have discussed thus far. And then as well as take a look at the last video I just did that gave you an overall financial update on all of our investments accounts, our custodial, our ETF, our crypto, and then our retirement with that. So, again, please hit that bell notification and look forward to seeing you at a future video. Thank you so much.